Hi there, it's David here from MyPhysioSA, and today I'm catching up with Stewart, who's a podiatrist. So Stewart Ogston has been a podiatrist since 1999, and he does all things podiatry, but he really specialises in biomechanics and biomechanical issues. So Stewart, thanks for joining me today. So what's the difference between good feet and bad feet? How can you actually tell?
Well, I'm not really sure that there are necessarily good feet and or bad feet.
Yep.
Problems arise when the foot does what it's supposed to do, and that's carry our body weight and move us across the ground. And it actually depends on how the foot is interacting with the surfaces that it stands on that leads to the problems that we all get.
Okay.
In some people it happens more quickly than in others, so you can see kids with problems, but for most people it's the longer time they've been on their feet, so they're getting older, that problems begin to show through. And it all stems from the way that the foot has the ability to adapt to whatever surface it lands on.
Okay.
It's meant to land on a variable surface, but we've made our environment, both inside a shoe and walking around in our bare feet on the surfaces that we have around us, we've changed everything to flat. And that creates an RSI, repetitive strain injury type situation. But with the human foot, it not only affects the foot, it affects every other part of our body basically as well.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, no really bad feet, they develop.
Yeah, okay. So what are the most common problems people get with their feet that you would say?
I suppose the most common problem in older people is pressure lesions on the skin, because people are not walking over their foot, they tend to walk around parts of it and you get extra pressure there, and when the skin is subjected to extra pressure it thickens. That's callous, and that of course is counterproductive because it makes the pressure worse. And when you get the point of highest pressure, continually getting pressure, that's when a corn forms, and that gets pushed downwards and inwards into the foot. So it's very, very painful. The other commonest thing that we see is change of shape of joints. So the toes, like our fingers, instead of being flat and flexible, become rigid and changed. And one that most people will know of is the big toe being forced across, commonly called bunions, all caused by mechanical stresses as we stand and walk on our feet on a flat surface.
Okay. So what do you do to sort of test feet or to try and work out what's causing someone's problem?
Well, the main joint that we have to consider is that it's the joint that allows the foot to interact with the ground. And it's actually this joint in here. It's a three-dimensional joint. It sits just below the ankle. And that joint's three-dimensional movement allows us to land on and adapt to uneven ground, slopes, lumps, bumps, because we want to be vertical, and so the foot has the ability to adapt. But not only does it have the ability to adapt, it actually relies on adapting, and at the same time as it pushes down, the ground pushes back up and supports the foot. And that's the factor that's missing when we make everything flat. So this three-dimensional joint can adapt to flat, and in most people it flattens the foot, and that's where the term flat feet comes from, because we see someone standing on a flat surface, they're adapting really well to it, so the foot flattens. Lift the foot up and the arches come back. And in that regard I said arches because technically the foot has three bony arches, the main one that we all know about, but there's a smaller one on this side, and there's also a small crossways one under here. And they're all critically important in getting the foot to function efficiently.
Okay. So if someone's come in with, say, foot or arch pain, you check all of those arches. You'd obviously want to see them walking up and down the hallway, or if they're a runner, see them running. Check what sorts of shoes they wear.
Most definitely, yes. All of that gets checked.
So what ways have you got of helping people with their issues with their foot biomechanics?
Well, The way I put it when I am discussing this with the people that I see is I say to them, we've got to put the natural shape of the ground back under your foot.
Yep.
And because of the anatomical shape of the foot with 3 arches, anything that's going to put the shape how it should be needs to support those 3 arches.
Yep.
And at the same time it needs to reposition this joint to where it should sit. Yes. To allow you to walk over your foot. Yes. Rather than most people to walk around their foot. And it's that leads to the toe being forced across.
Yes.
The other toes, because muscles do jobs they shouldn't be doing.
Yep.
And it changes everything. And because this joint is 3-dimensional, anything that it does incorrectly down here, because it's interacting with the ground, those 3 dimensions can't be changed at contact. So at least 2 of them get passed up through the lower limb. So the ankle can be affected, the leg, the knee, the hip, the lower back, the pelvis, everything is affected. Posture is controlled by the position of your feet on the ground.
Okay. So what, is that where orthotics come from? That we hear people putting in their shoes and...
There's a whole range. I've always said that you put anything under your foot and it will help you.
Yes.
If you're going to make it help you most effectively, my belief is that the structural shape should be correct and the functional position should be correct. So structural shape means those 3 arches being present, and functional position is the bulk that is in that orthotic to get your foot to the position that makes it most efficient. And that's the only thing we've got, because medically you're not ill, but mechanically you're not doing well. Okay. And because you're taking at least, for most people, 5,000 to 10,000 steps a day, that mechanical inefficiency is created every time you take a step. And every day you take 10,000 steps, and every week and every month. So as you get older, these problems can become more severe. That doesn't mean that young people don't get them quite badly. It all relates to how much movement there is in this joint generally, and how much it affects the efficiency of your foot.
So can you get enough correction of your biomechanics with a good pair of shoes? Can you get off-the-shelf orthotics, like the ones you can buy at the sports store or at the pharmacy that you just slide in? How do they compare to something custom-made?
You can always get an argument from different podiatrists and physiotherapists about this. My own view is that no matter how good a sports shoe is, if you look inside it, and most of them have a removable inner, it's a nicely cushioned inner, but it's flat.
Yep.
So the shoe can give you a degree of cushioning, a degree of support, but it cannot control this joint. This joint will still move within the shoe.
Okay.
Off-the-shelf orthotics, yes, they're really good in some cases. The rule of thumb that I use is I divide the categories of degree of problem into mild, moderate and severe. And I usually try to, people with mild issues, maybe even into the low end of moderate, I try to use off-the-shelf. Okay. But once you're well and truly into that moderate to severe range, there really only is one answer, and that's custom-made orthotics.
So specific, and you do a cast for their foot.
Absolutely.
And then you put that together with your testing of them walking and how everything feels.
Yes.
And then you create that by hand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the way that we do it. And in relation to that examination, of course, it's not only the movement we see, it's the tightness we feel in a particular muscle group, it's the flexibility that's available. We can't really change that. That's in the hands of the physios to help with that sort of thing. But we can actually get the basis around which everything else works. If we can get that stable and efficient, that's doing the best we can to help all these other issues.